Welcome to episode 4 of Chunk Chats. Today I have Josh Isn't, also known as ChunkYanille. Hope you guys enjoy this one.
Hello, I'm Josh Isn't Gaming, I suppose. And yeah, I've been running the ChunkYanille account for about a year and a half at this point, and I'm a YouTuber, chunk man, musician, um, a lover of fun facts. I've been come to be known by, and I'm excited to be here.
It's awesome. What got you to start playing RuneScape in the first place?
RuneScape in the first place. I definitely played as a kid. A lot of good memories of, the classic stuff, just walking around Lumbridge. A lot of those Lumbridge and Varrock songs always like hit me with nostalgia still. I guess it's probably because I don't usually play with game music on. So, but I definitely came back to the game when Old School came out. I think I jumped back in around, I don't know, maybe like 2015, 2016, and played pretty casually. Played an Ironman. I just like always loved the idea that you could be self-sufficient in this game, and that's like kind of what I wished the game was in the first place. And never really got too far on that account. And then just, I in terms of sort of how I interact with the game now is like YouTube videos and stuff. Definitely watched Settled and the Swampletics series, and I was like, that is like one of the coolest things that anyone has ever made. Like, how can you make someone feel real feelings with RuneScape? Like, that's incredible. I want to do that. And that's sort of what gave me the inspiration to start making YouTube videos. So maybe that was two answers to questions in one. I don't know.
No, it was great. Yeah, definitely. I feel a lot of content creators probably look towards Settled as kind of the person that really got them feeling those kind of feelings of, really producing something that people connected with kind of on a deeper level, more than just, progress in the game.
Right. Of course, there's always been great, RuneScape YouTube videos. And even like region locked, like Verf, some people sometimes forget, Karamja UIM was before Swampletics.
Yep.
The Karamja account started before Swampletics. So Settle didn't even make up that idea. But what he did sort of inject the community with was this idea that you can turn your journey not only into, like progress and, what are you doing with your account, but you can produce it beyond what a YouTube video typically is. YouTube videos, I think before that, especially in the RuneScape world, were like, tutorials, progress videos. They were very cut and dry, very like, pragmatic. And I think Settled was like, what if it was like TV? What if there was drama? What if there was highs and lows? And, what if the goal is to make the audience feel what I'm feeling when I'm going through this. And I think that changed a lot of people's perspective on what a RuneScape YouTube video could be.
Yeah, definitely. I remember the only videos I watched before then were literally just progress videos, like Mr. Mammal and Old School Gamers. Those people did just progress productions, or maybe they'd try to make enough, like a certain amount of money from scratch or something, or just PKing it. And yeah, it's crazy because this game has so much to offer that you can really build a story around a certain account. And Settled really paved the way for that. And I definitely can tell that you have the storytelling kind of inspiration in your videos as well. I'm sure people feel that way about your videos as well.
Yeah, something that I like I think when I started, so like my first account wasn't this chunk account. It was my first series, that is. It was a very settled, inspired, like UIM account that was like basically locked to Lumbridge, like a Lumbridge-esque area. And I think it took me a while to sort of really figure out how to produce the types of episodes that I wanted. But I always had that goal in mind of creating a story and creating something that was more than just, you know, like you said, progress or, updates on what I'm doing. It was always
Mm.
goals, hopes and dreams, basically.
Yeah, I get that. I actually haven't seen Sir Lumington. I'm sure maybe
It's
others haven't seen it yet. What's
it's a bit of an
kind of
obscure
about?
one. Well, so yeah, Sir Lumbington was my first UIM. He's the Lumbridge to Rimington locked UIM, aka Lumbington, Rimington,
Ah, I
Lumbridge.
see.
Um, and the goal of the account is to uh kill the Calphite Queen, which might sound weird because that's not even in that area. It's because you can access her through this dungeon in Dorgishkan, the place where
Yeah.
the Dorgishkan agility course is. There's like a door to the Calphite lair.
Mhm.
So, as far as region locked rules go, anything in a cave that you can access is fair game. And once I discovered that, once I was sort of like looking at that area and I was like, oh wow, you could like do a lot here. And once I discovered that you could kill KQ, I was like, oh, I gotta make this. I gotta do this. Um, and yeah, that account was definitely if you go back and watch it, if you're someone who's watched my videos, you can like literally see over the course of the first like five or so episodes, 5, 6, 7 episodes, like you can see the quality and like my understanding of how to make a video evolving. And I think
Yeah.
it's kind of funny. Um, I feel like a lot of people have that. Uh,
Yeah.
and it taught me a lot. And it didn't really get a lot of traction, and it was sort of I mean, I think the videos are fine. Um, and someday I do want to finish that series because it's sort of on a cliffhanger right now. But yeah, that it was like my sort of training grounds for storytelling.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe unintentionally. You just needed to get through one series to really learn your editing style, and uh maybe the next series can always be better. I kind of got that too. I basically just made progress videos for my Ironman before I started my chunk count, and I think I got through like 12 episodes or so before I made the chunk count. And yeah, those 12 episodes are not that great, so I'm glad that I got to um, start there and make mistakes there, really find my editing style. And then um, my first chunk video, wasn't as bad as it could have been, which I'm grateful for. And I remember your videos coming out too for ChunkYanille, and I thought the editing was great right from episode one. So I definitely am glad that you had a starter series as well. But yeah, it might be an interesting
Yeah,
series to get into. Sounds like KQ being the hidden end boss for Lumbridge, I guess.
basically, yeah, it's cool. I think um, this is sort of getting into a slightly different topic, but like one of my passions, probably my biggest passion with this game, is like exploration and sort of it's weird to even say discovering things because most things have been discovered, but just sort maybe better way to put it would be like putting a shining a light on things that most people don't know about.
Hmm.
Because I think there are a lot of things that get lost from the collective like conscience of the RuneScape player group. I think the group think of RuneScape.
Yeah.
And so that was a big part of what drew me to like that Cow Fight Queen boss idea. And a lot of the account uses this is still the Lumbington account
Mhm.
uses content that just like nobody would have any reason to go. A lot of like Dargishkon. Like Dargishkon is the place that I'm like second to Yanille, just because I've obviously spent a lot of time there. It's like the place I'm like the most obsessed with. Like it's so weird. Everything in there is weird. Nobody does anything in Dorgishkon. I think someone was like making a leagues video and they were like, "Wow, if they just deleted Dorgishkon from the game, nobody would notice." And I think that's like basically true.
It's
True.
sad though,
Sorry.
because it is a cool
Uh,
place. I do like it there as
it
well.
looks awesome. The
Mhm.
visuals are so good. It's full of content. It's just full of really bad content.
Yeah.
Like content where all the rates are just a little bit too low to be good or just doesn't quite fit in the niche that it was made for. And no one's there and it's kind of a pain in the ass to get to. And so people just don't go there. And I just like when I was like, oh, like I could make a series where part of it is, using all of the weird things in Dorgish kind of like that's what I want to do. I want it to be this sort of like expose of what is in these forgotten areas.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Dorgishkon. I used to train agility there back in the day, and I think the Chosen Commander was my favorite quest. If you remember that one, I think it was the um, Grandmaster of like the Goblin quests. But you did a
I'll have
lot of
to bring it
stuff
to
there.
OSRS before I know it because I haven't played RS3 in a long time.
Yeah, I think it came out in 2010. But yeah, it was I hated quests, but it was like one of the only Grandmaster quests I did. I think they actually are planning on bringing it to old school. Land of the Goblins was like one of the prequels for it, so I think they're kind of expanding that way. And
Yeah, I hope they
obviously,
continue to work their way through
yeah,
the Goblin storyline. I think it's very fun.
yeah, they're bringing in While Gothic Sleeps, and I think there's interest in some of the quests from that era of the game coming into old school. And yeah, I always liked
Yeah.
the agility course. And up until recently, I didn't even know about like the market stuff. Do you know about like the weird market items that you can
Yeah,
get?
the market mini game,
Yeah.
the trading mini game where you sell them food.
Yeah, it's so weird, and I didn't know about that until Tedious made a video collecting those items.
Yeah.
And yeah,
No,
it's
it's
so
just like
obscure and
the
weird.
weirdest stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, there's also a ton of buildings in there that like look like they have something in them. Like there's like this whole goblin orphanage
Hmm.
that has like a ton of NPCs doing like really particular animations. Like clearly someone spent like a lot of time making that. There's no reason to go in there. I don't even know if you can talk to anybody or have any meaningful like clickable like
Yeah.
stuff in there. It's just like really intricate scenery. Like that
Yeah.
whole place is just full of intricate scenery.
Yeah. I think it
And I'm
was
just like,
used
wow.
for one of the quests actually. One of the later ones.
One of the later quests.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh,
So
well,
they
let's
probably
hope that
did.
that comes to OSRS.
Yeah. Yeah. The thing about like taking the game from 2007 is there was probably a lot of unfinished products like at that time. So it is kind of nice that they're
Right.
smoothing some of this stuff over after so long.
Yeah, agreed.
But moving away from Dorgish Khan, why did you choose Yanille as your starting area for your chunk count?
Yeah. So, I mean, it's a great question. I think it is sort of tied to what you're talking about with like the first series of mine. I was playing it and I was, I was having fun with it, but it was also kind of a struggle. There was this period in it where I like lost a bunch of footage to like a corruption thing that I didn't notice was
Mm.
happening. Like it wasn't like I like dropped my hard drive or something. It was like the footage was getting corrupted as I recorded it. And it kind of like turned me off from continuing the series for like months. And during that downtime, I was like I was watching the chunk videos and I was like just kind of browsing the chunk map, and I was like, man, what would be like a cool place for like a OneChunk account? Like, not even like I was like gonna make a video. I was just like kind of curious. I love thinking about stuff like that. Um, and I just kind of like looked around, and I was like, oh, like Yanille, like, huh. And I um started looking at the different skills you'd have to do there and the different tasks. And the more I looked, I was like, wait, this is really good. This is really cool. And the thing that tipped me over the edge, where I was like, okay, I just have to do this. I have to make this account. Is I was like, oh, if you could access agility, this chunk has like multiple, like, it's almost like it has like mini chunks within it, like multiple mini chunks within this bigger chunk,
Mhm.
because you can start accessing more and more of the agility dungeon, which like unlocks, progressively unlocks content. And I was like, that would be so cool. Like, the closest thing to train agility is this weird trellis like shortcut for the watchtower quest, which gives a little bit of XP,
Mhm.
but it requires like 18 agility or something, and it would just end up being a lot of waiting around. And then I was like, you know what? Let me just look, because I looked on the map. I was like, oh, is there any like a weird agility shortcuts or something? And I was like, oh no, the map doesn't show any. There's this under wall tunnel, but that's like level 16, doesn't give any XP. And oh, there's this like grapple shortcut, but that's like even higher level. And how am I getting the grapple? And I was like, you know what? Let me just like look on the wiki and see if there's something I'm missing. So I go on the wiki, I go to agility shortcuts, and on there is this this agility shortcut, level 5. It gives, I forget, like 30 XP or something. It's not marked on the map. It's these weird rocks on the wall, like next to the like food store in Yanille, at level 5 agility. And I'm like, what? How is this real? Like, this like makes the whole thing. This makes the entire chunk perfect. It's like the perfect level to lamp to like start unlocking content after the first couple of episodes. It just like, I could just see the entire series in front of my eyes from that moment. I was like, oh my god, like that's perfect. Um, and I was like, I have to do this. Like, I can't not do that.
That's amazing to hear, yeah. So it's like a puzzle and you were just missing one piece and then you found it.
Exactly.
Yeah. I
And
feel like
also
I
like the
felt the
fact
same
that
thing
it's
too with my chunk.
like it's well, for you, what was your puzzle piece?
It was ranged. Um yeah, so maze randoms are what made it. I saw somebody else using the side chests and getting bronze and
Yeah.
iron arrows, and so it did it for me, because what if I did the chambers chunk without ranged and I couldn't equip a T-bow? It would have been just detrimental. So that was a very important puzzle piece. But yeah, continue with what you were
Got it.
saying too.
For me, it was like the fact that it was so, like, the added benefit that the final puzzle piece was so obscure, but like hidden in plain sight.
Hmm.
The rocks are there. Like, everybody's probably walked by them like 100 times. They're just right there. They're just really weird. Like, why are they there? They're like 10 steps away from another agility shortcut that does the exact same thing, that is like takes 10 more levels. Like, I don't know if you know what I'm referring to with these rocks,
Yeah,
but
I've done
it's literally
clue
just like,
scrolls and used that before. I think Sebe pointed out in a video, like a little bit before you posted the video with agility. I found out about it.
yeah,
And yeah, it's so weird because it just like instantly teleports you to the other side too. And yeah, it saved
right.
like 30 seconds on like that clue scroll step. That's like near there.
Yeah, it's like, why? But like, there's it's just one of those things that that I think that agility shortcut kind of like defined the Yanille chunk for me. and in a lot of ways, it defined the thrill that I got out of the series, which
Mhm.
is this is here. It's not hidden. It's not a bug or a glitch or an exploit or sort of an unintended like the maze chest or what I mean. It's just there. It's just not known for whatever reason. It's just because it's old and kind of doesn't really serve many purposes. And I was like, the series very quickly went from this is a one chunk series to this is a exploration series. This is an investigation. This is like I like to think of myself as a RuneScape archaeologist. That's like my main passion with this game is finding all of those old relics of RuneScape Classic and early days of RuneScape where the game was so different than what we know today and bringing that to people. That's like the joy that I get out of this game. And that little agility shortcut that made the whole chunk make sense was like the first, big step in that direction for me.
100%, yeah. I love that with chunk accounts. I'm definitely a big fanboy for most chunk accounts, but it's awesome to see whenever somebody has a long starting chunk, they're basically going over that plot of land with a fine-tooth comb and they find obscure, like forgotten about things. And yeah, those make me happy, so I know how your viewers feel. Probably the same as me as well. That those little things that you find are definitely a lot of fun. And I'm guessing that turned into the fun Yanille facts as well, with a lot of all those
Right.
that you
Yeah.
had. Mm.
Yeah. I mean, I think as I was going, I was just noticing like weird, goofy things. Uh, just some of them more interesting than others. And just being like, I'm just gonna share these. And I don't know why I called them fun, facts. I just thought that sounded, that's what they were. Um,
Mhm.
it kind of gave me license to say things that weren't actually interesting in like a real way. They're just fun facts. Um, and that apparently worked for people. They liked that. I
Definitely
liked it
popped
too, so
off.
I
Yeah,
was very happy about that.
yeah. There's a lot
Yeah,
of
so
creators that use that, or a similar kind of segment in their videos now too. So
and I
it's
love
popped
that.
off. Yeah.
I love to see people. I think that if I did anything slash if I have done anything with this series, it's inspire other people to pay more attention to those little things, those like sort of useless things, and share them because I think people might not realize how much other people value that. It's not an obvious thing to do for some people to be like, oh, here's this weird thing useless thing I noticed,
Mhm.
because it's useless. But I think hopefully, with other people doing that, can become a thing where people just feel more comfortable, carving out some time from their videos to share fun facts.
Yeah, I like the concept as well. I mean, I haven't done them in my videos, but I do plan on making like a 101 facts about chambers because there's literally like too many things. To be honest, it is a very
For sure.
odd place too, and I'm sure if somebody has done as much like Chambers of Zarek as I have, they'd probably know like 75 out of these 101 facts, but like just to tell anybody about, and I do tell people a lot in my streams about them too. So yeah, the fun
Uh
facts
huh.
are great, and I think it's amplified the chunk content in general with the other people using it. It's really nice that we have a community as well that we can share tactics. We're not really competing against each other, so seeing other people succeed with their videos is just it's benefiting everybody because the chunk community just keeps growing. Crazy.
Totally. I, I agree. I feel like I mean, one chunk as a thing, as a genre, I feel like is actually very dependent on the community, the existence of the community to sort of like validate it as a game mode. You know, if you sort of came up with like, oh, I'm playing like one, like, I don't know, whatever, some other sort of otherwise abstract restriction, and you're the only one doing it, it's a lot easier for someone to look at this and go, oh, why does this matter? Like, why should I care?
Mhm.
Than if you know, are one of a genre of something, you're like, okay, like people are doing this. This means something to a group of people. Like, do I want to be in that group of people? I feel like that is one of the big strengths of One Chunk is that we kind of can represent
Mhm.
a group that people viewers can like opt into if they want to, as opposed to just being like, oh, you know, I like this one creator or I like this one idea. You know, you can buy into a pool of creators and a pool of you know, videos that you can then obviously go and watch
Mhm.
as like a genre, which I think is a big strength to One Chunk.
Yeah, I feel more often than not when people ask me what the hell I'm doing, more often than not they're like, "Are you a chunk account?" Other than just,
Uh-huh.
are you just trolling, or are you just bad at the game? You can't even get a fire cape. It's like, no, I can't because I can't go anywhere, and they understand that. It's like a general understanding between
Right.
most of um, the old school community as a whole, not just like our little group, and even like Jagex makes a tease to chunk counts every now and then. I know they did for Limpwort when they added the Dragon Pickaxe to KQ. They put in like the uh, news
Yeah, yeah. In
article.
the update notes, yeah,
Yeah,
they were like, sorry to Limport or whatever.
yeah.
Yeah.
Like looks
Yeah, I remember that.
some like chunk lots accounts will have to go back to the big insect or something like that. It's funny, but
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
it's recognized, and we don't need like a special element next to our name like to know that we're chunk lock accounts pretty much. I don't even think it
For
would
sure.
work honestly if Jagex made it an official game mode. Um, I
Yeah. Can we
actually,
talk about that for a sec?
yeah, for sure. I like it better how it is now, and I would really hate for them to touch it. Not gonna lie, partly because like I couldn't transfer my account to that, but I generally feel like my account's like locked to these boundaries, you know. But yeah, what are your thoughts on
Yeah.
that?
So like a while back, a couple months ago, I think it was, um they like put out this poll. It wasn't like an in-game poll, it was like a external poll about like do you want developer mode like worlds where like players can create like custom game modes, or like do you want to bring official, you know, bronze man mode or region locked mode or all of these sort of you know, community created game
Mhm.
modes to the game. um do you remember what I'm talking about,
Yeah,
that poll?
I'm the kind of nerd that does all the polls and all the
Okay, good, good.
unofficial ones too. Yeah.
So I think so. My opinion is I can see why that would be attractive for sure. I can really get why people would want that, especially sort of the average person who doesn't plan on bringing their experience to a platform. They just want to play it. I can see why that would be somewhat um, appealing, especially if there's like, yeah, special helmet or like one chunk high scores or whatever, something where those by making an official version of those, it kind of gives the average player like a platform
Mhm.
to interact with that.
Yep.
But um I agree with you, and I think that I think that there are a lot of examples of games taking something community made and over supporting it to the point where it loses the the thing that made it special. So like, if I may give an example, I don't know if you have ever played the card game Magic: The Gathering. Are you familiar with Magic?
I know about it. I haven't played it though.
So I'll keep this short in that case. There was a community-made game mode that was contrary to the sort of Magic. For those who don't know, is like a basically like a 1v1 trading card game. It's like Yu-Gi-Oh, Pokemon. It's the original trading card game. It's the game that invented trading card games. And usually it's played somewhat competitively as a 2-player 1v1 game. It's a lot like chess, but with trading cards. And somewhere along the line, a community-made version of the game called Commander, or at the time it was called Elder Dragon Highlander, which is a really ridiculous name, came into existence, and over some years it started picking up enough popularity that the company that makes Magic was like, oh, like let's put out a product specifically aimed at Commander. Like let's make a Commander product. And they did, and it was really popular. And ever since then, especially in the last like couple of years, Commander has taken on so much popularity that it's actually the most popular way to play the game. It's incredibly casual. It's a multiplayer format where people play with like 4 players. A lot of people say it's sort of like the board game version of Magic. Like if Magic is chess, Commander is like Monopoly. And for the people who were starting Commander, it was totally fan-made, and there was a lot of sort of magic to that. A lot of, like, it had specific rules, much like chunk accounts or region-locked accounts, specific restrictions that made it more of a challenge to put your deck together. Much like how, region-locked challenges are, how am I going to do this skill? How am I going to take on this challenge? And as the company started making more and more products aimed at it, due to its popularity, those restrictions started becoming less and less relevant because there was more and more, content there to choose from. So whether it was intentional or unintentional, they basically took what was special about the game, the special rules, the special restrictions, and eroded them to no longer be restrictive, which sounds like a good thing. I mean, I think that's one common mistake people make about games in general, is that restrictions sound bad. They sound limitations. They sound like they're going to stop you from doing something. But limitations are what make games fun. 100%. They're the obstacles that create a game. If RuneScape was like, yeah, you can just set your levels to whatever and generate items in your inventory, you're like, well, that's not even a game. What am I even going to do? Like, why would I spend time with that?
If you've ever played a private server, you typically could do stuff like that. And yeah, those are fun for maybe a day. And then you honestly get bored of it. Kind of like leagues too. It's too fast paced, and things are too easy to obtain. With drop rates are like more common. So it's fun for a little while, but like it always gets old. It actually usually invigorates my like want to play the normal game whenever I'm getting like such fast paced progress like that. I kind of want to go back to the slower version of the game, the harder version of the game, because of that.
Right. Totally. I mean, leagues I think is a little bit genius in its own way because there's a new limitation, which is that you only have this much time to do what you want to do. So you have to do it here, or it will just be deleted, which I think is genius. I think that's a great new limitation that makes leagues have its own thing. Like you no longer are held back by the speed limitations, and you're now held back by the how much can I do in this given amount of time. So I agree that leagues gets boring after a little while based on the expectations of the normal game, but I think that it draws people in because of it has own separate set of expectations, which I think is pretty fun.
Yeah, for sure.
But going back to our restricted account sort of official game mode, I would strongly fear that if they did introduce official versions, that the exact same thing would happen there. That as soon as you make it official, you have to start to support it with updates and with content. And enough people, complain that, man, there isn't a good way to train, ranged in the chambers chunk. Can you put a bow salesman here? And they're like, or like an arrow salesman here? And they're like, sure. And they do. And then all of a sudden, over time, you start to erode what the restrictions were in the first place, what made it fun. The fact that you're doing something you're not supposed to do. That's what makes it fun.
Yeah.
You're doing something that wasn't intended. There's a lot of fun to that.
Yeah, I think a good example is like, what if they put a range shop in every single chunk in the game? And then nobody would ever have to worry about which chunk they picked. It would always be easier to like train range. But since every chunk is different and it might not have resources readily available, that kind of what makes it interesting. I think the fact that a lot of people have created their own versions of chunk account, whether it be vanilla, semi, extreme, extreme plus, supreme, insane, list goes on. That kind of makes it even more special too, that there's all these different game modes. Like, is Jagex gonna support every version of it, every like rule change, every backlog that people want to do? Like, it's more fluid, I guess, with having the player base in charge of this, because we can kind of just make it whatever we want.
Yeah, I agree. And even so, to change gears a tiny bit, still very much on this topic, you're talking about all the different ways, different versions of OneChunk, and I feel like even beyond that, there are everyone approaches OneChunk with a different goal, even if they have to share the same rules. Like, I think, so if I may, I was just saying this to a group of my RuneScape friends and content creators the other day. In the group chat is Frey, the Canifest chunk, extreme chunk account. That I feel like within the sort of orbit of extreme chunk YouTube channels, just the visible ones. Obviously, there's more than just them. Of some of the high profile ones, everyone is doing something a little bit different in my viewpoint. Like, I think that Limpwort, his goal, what he wants to do, the thing that makes his content him, is the shock factor of the insane grinds. Clearly, his brain is wired to do insane grinds, right?
100%.
And that's what makes his content fun. Verf, on the other hand, also doing insane grinds, but his Zaya Chunk account, it feels more like a region locked account because of where he started. He had multiple bosses, he had progression, he had access to tons of skills and items, and way more than the average chunk account would have access to in their first chunk. His felt like sort of a reimagining of the Karamja, large restriction with a boss at the end. I feel like Verf's extreme chunk account is geared more towards that, towards this sort of microcosm of RuneScape itself, right?
Yeah, you put the catacombs and his chunk together, it's basically like 20 chunks combined.
Right, and it's almost like a region, like a a Karamja of Mauritania, and then Frey, Canifest chunk, his account. If you look at his bank, it doesn't look like any chunk account out there. I mean, he has what, like 70,000 revenants killed. Like,
it looks like a rev
very
bot.
Sort of. It looks like a rev bot, or he's killing Bedion. Like, he's like a wilderness. I mean, it looks more like um, I don't know if really a main makes sense to say here because whose main bank looks like that, but it doesn't look like a chunk man. You know, he's
Yeah.
progressing to relatively, you know, far in the game with his, you know, gear progression and skill progression and bank value and stuff. It's evolving far past what a one chunk account looks like.
Yeah,
And
it's
then
kind of like
me
just
on
super
my
charged to like a
yeah,
end game pretty quick.
exactly. His version of what a one chunk could be is end game. He sees it as a path to that. Whereas on my account, like I was saying, I feel like an archaeologist. It's not even about grinds or levels or it's not even really about playing RuneScape. It's about learning RuneScape, learning about it, uncovering it, discovering things and information. My account's progression is information.
Mhm.
Um, and you know, we all share pretty much the same rules. I know mine are a little bit different. I mean, everyone within there is a tiny bit different. There's tiny variations.
Which is great,
Obviously, I'm not doing skill
honestly.
capes, so like that's.
Yeah.
But yeah, like yeah, it is great. It's great, and it results in people kind of creating their own journey with their own goals in mind, which I think is
Mhm.
so cool for this game mode. And I would encourage people. I think so. One thing that I'm getting at with this is that even within myself, sometimes I feel some insecurity that I'm not sort of following the limpwort um, mindset with this account. I'm not sort of committing my life to crazy sort of against the odds grinds.
Yeah.
I've opted out of some really long grinds, but it's because that's not what I'm here for. And I think that my sort of overall point with this is that one chunk, extreme one chunk especially, yes, it's a game mode with rules for sure, but it's also a vehicle to achieve goals in the game that you might have, whatever they might be. And they can be a lot of different things. And opting out of grinds doesn't have to undermine those goals. It can actually help them. And that Limpwort created this, obviously, but it's possible that he didn't really realize what he was creating, this platform for experiencing the game in a totally new way, and
Mhm.
that it can be more than sort of the way that he plays it. Um, for me, I know the grinds represent uh, sort of a a obstacle in terms of storytelling where there it creates this beautiful ebb and flow of progress and and you know pause, the chance to really dig into an area and then more progress, and it's this very fun pace of exploring things and really getting stuck into them and looking around. um, that's what my goals are, much more than check out how many 99s I can get, which isn't even a bad goal. I'm not even trying to talk down to that. Limpwort does insane things, incredible things, and anybody who tries to do that, I respect because those things are insane.
Mhm.
Um, but that's sort of my perspective on what we have here.
Yeah. Yeah, it's more than just one thing. It's like a lot of different things, and the beauty of it is you can make as many goals as you want. Or if you're bad at making goals, Chunk Picker can tell you what to do, which I kind of like a bit too. You know, it kind of gives you a little bit of a one track mind where you're going for these specific things instead of having maybe too much going on. Um, which
Hmm.
I felt like maybe in an end game Ironman where I was, there was literally too much to do. I had no clue how to like where to start in a lot of cases. Um, but yeah, just so like making or like the game choosing my goals for me is kind of helpful in some instances. Also, obviously, I choose where I wanted to start, so I had that going for me too. And yeah, the ability to change your rule set around kind of what your specific goals are what I like about chunk count. And there's like no shame in anybody who makes a series doing it based on the rules that they like to do, and not having to go specifically with like the person who created the rules, like Limpwort. Definitely, it's good to have that variety um, in the game mode as well. So yeah, I get that. Me specifically, if I haven't rolled chunks yet, but when I roll chunks, like I want to kind of immerse myself in each one before I move on. One thing that um, is a little bit disappointing with chunk series is if people are flying through chunks, they don't really go over them
Right.
much. Yeah, it's a little bit of shame because I know some chunks definitely don't have much at all in them, but maybe there is something that could be uncovered that hasn't been yet. Somebody finds something obscure in a chunk that they thought had nothing in it. Um, that would excite me for sure. So yeah, I get both
Totally.
aspects of it. I'm definitely a grinder myself, but um yeah, I like the smaller kind of advantages of chunk count as well.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think that it really just goes to how everyone plays this game. For example, I know Limpwort, as far as I understand, I'm pretty sure, based on just watching his videos, he's not someone who's ever maxed an account or done raids or really played the game in any kind of end game capacity. He's sort of like you know, a a forever noob, if you will,
Mhm.
in his own special way, which I think there's a lot of I think that the one chunk game mode is perfect for that type of player who's played the game for forever, but plays it sort of with respect to how they learned the game. They played it like as a kid or whatever. Um, Not someone who played it as an adult and kind of went through the process of, end game, min max, you know, all of that stuff. That's myself as well. Like I I'm not someone who's played RuneScape through to the end of the game. I've never had a 99 on any account, which is funny to say.
Really?
And yeah, like I said, my interest in this game has always been information, and more so now than ever, because actually, so I'm a I have recently, as if you've seen my videos, there was a whole period where I was constantly taking sponsors from the school that I just graduated from. That is a online game development program,
Yeah.
and I just over this last summer, so about a year ago, graduated with this degree in game dev. And I'm not gonna say that I'm like a professional game developer because ever since I graduated, I've been doing RuneScape.
Yeah.
But uh, just my appreciation for the game, as like a creation, is much more than my appreciation for the game as a source of entertainment, if that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah, I
Like
get that. You
as
probably
a
might know what's going on under the hood every now and then, with your experience with that too.
Yeah, it's that and sort of the process, the creative process of making a game, of what it takes to create an experience for a player.
Mhm.
And that's what, especially now, drives my interest in this game more than um sort of becoming the best at it. Or obviously I'm never going to become the best at it, but sort of any sense of competition or need to achieve above others or even above myself. It's just like, wow, this game is so weird and so old and so unique. um, I gotta play it. I have to play it in a way that lets me appreciate that. So I'm probably in the minority for that perspective. But hopefully, maybe me saying this can inspire some people to just look at the game in that way. I think that OneChunk is one of those things that does that. That just gives you that perspective on the game as like a thing, like this weird creation that you're just looking at and you're like, wow, what? How did they make this? You know, why did they make this? Why did they make this particular thing?
Mhm.
Those are the things that I think about when I play this game, much more than, wanting to be like, oh man, like how am I gonna like, you know, gear up? How am I gonna like do Inferno, whatever, like
Yeah.
so that's a big part of my perspective.
Yeah. I think everybody could benefit by having that perspective a little bit, every now and then, at least.
Hmm.
I think that kind of propels us to my next question is if you could change one thing about the current old school RuneScape, what would you change?
Oh man. Well, the problem is with that question that I would change. Hmm.
Maybe I could reword it a
So
little bit if
no,
it
no, it's a
helps.
good question. It's a good question. I'm thinking about my answer and also like because you could change something about the game, about what is in the game,
Yeah.
the content, the skills, the quests, blah blah blah. But you could also change something about the way people play the game or the way that they are able to play the game. And even the way the game is made,
Hmm.
new content. Um, so like my my gut reaction answer is one that I personally wouldn't even want, but if I could go back in time and change something, it would be to prevent Quest Helper plugin from ever existing. Not because I
Hmm.
don't like it. I love it. It's so good. It's too good. It's so
Hmm.
good that it so so I think that your question is bringing up something that I've been wanting to kind of talk about, which is my absolute favorite RuneScape content out right now. Obviously, Gilner Games is amazing. Settled is my inspiration. But
Yeah.
the content that I think that is currently the best to to be gaining a platform is Alien Foods Unguided. Have you seen it?
Uh, I've watched the first episode. I know the concept.
So
I've gotta catch up though.
for anyone who has watched it, the first couple episodes, I actually watched the first couple episodes when they first came out, and I was like, this is kind of bad.
It was very rough to
I
get through the first episode, but people keep telling me to watch
yeah,
it, so I definitely still am planning on watching it.
it took the first maybe 5 or so episodes to kind of get the rhythm. Or once it got into like the episode, 10 plus episodes, it was like perfect. The formula was perfect. Just
Mhm.
the right amount of sort of wandering around, not knowing where to go. Just the right amount of sort of explaining the lore and I think so. I think that to me, um, the Unguided series, if you haven't watched it, the idea is very simple. He's trying to complete every quest in the game with no guides, no wiki, no RuneLite plugins, um, just playing the game of RuneScape. And I think he's got a lot of subscribers. Alien Food is someone who I love. I've talked to him a bunch. The man is a gem. But I think what he's doing is so much larger than just making enjoyable RuneScape content. It's like the second coming of by release, but at the same time, it's proving to me and to other people, I believe, that underneath what we have created as RuneScape, the min-maxing, the efficiency, the raids, the, like all of the sort of tactics that we have applied to this game and kind of created as the game. The game that most people play of RuneScape is, how do I waste the least time? Underneath all that, if you strip it all away, there is a game under there. Like an actual game.
Yeah.
Like a game that somebody sat down and made, not numbers. It's not a spreadsheet game. Like a game, like a Zelda, like a game with a story and challenges, unique challenges, the most unique challenges. RuneScape is the most unique game, multiplayer game at least, ever created. There could never be, there is no other game like RuneScape. There will never be another game. It's impossible to make RuneScape again. And
I agree.
the RuneScape I'm talking about is the RuneScape that Unguided is playing.
Mhm.
It's there. It's underneath everything that we have turned it into. And it's so unique and beautiful. And as a game developer, I'm like, that is so cool. Like how have we all missed this?
Yeah.
Quest Helper, tipped at it back in the day. There were every era of RuneScape has had a way to its own unique way to ignore this game.
I get that.
That is baked into the game that we play.
I think I've said it several times that maybe Quest Helper should be locked behind. You have to at least do the quest once on one account before you can use it. Because it's very helpful, I know, for people just trying to blast through an account. But yeah, everybody's first time like doing a quest should be kind of like when you're back as kids, like not knowing half the stuff, being stuck halfway through, and maybe having to backtrack as much as we used to as well. But yeah, there's something
right. I mean, I think
there for sure with maybe like a more fun aspect of the game without all these extra things that we're used to now.
Right. I mean, I think RuneScape players playing the game that they know are not willing to accept like actual challenges, if that makes sense. Like challenges that aren't prayer flicking or, tick manipulation. Challenges where you have to sit there and just sort of think, a puzzle, a riddle, a exploration puzzle. I'm guilty of it myself. I'm playing my Ironman on the side right now. And yeah, I use Quest Helper on every quest because it's just so much faster. I mean, we're all adults. We have limited time. But watching Alien Food play through his series and just play the quests and play the game has been so incredibly eye-opening for me. He's doing the same thing that I'm doing in my view. He's uncovering something that's been there this whole time, hiding in plain sight, something that everyone does, something that everyone has played through. They just haven't actually done it. They haven't actually played the game.
Yeah. Yeah, I
And
feel like some people haven't at all.
I just think it's such an important, I don't know, I guess to me it feels like a loss because RuneScape is so incredibly unique. And that by sort of opting out of those quests, that quest experience and that sort of story and challenge and the things that make quests, you're sort of throwing away something that you can't really get back afterwards.
Mhm. Yeah.
Um,
Me and my friends got into a habit of doing quests on day of release without guides, and doing it together is a lot of fun, honestly. But most of us are like end game players, and some of them like used to be like, I'm not gonna do the quest until Quest Helpers comes out. No. But honestly, we've had some of the most fun like trying to figure out this stuff before there's anything available. If we wanted to look at the wiki, there was no information on it. We wanted to look up a guide, there was
right.
nothing out yet. And I just forced back into that. So it's always like a unique position or unique thing that we can do every time that a new quest comes out to try and do it ourselves.
And I feel
Yeah,
like anyone who's tried to do that, like, recognizes that that experience doesn't even feel like you're playing RuneScape. It feels like you're playing a different game
yeah, yeah. I agree.
because of how, how different the challenges you face during that feel.
hmm
Um,
Even trying a new boss day
anyway,
of release can be like that too. I mean, nowadays I feel like everybody's too good at the game. Most content that they put out, certain players excel at. Now we have streaming and everything, so people can just watch a stream if they really want to see someone who's good at it.
right.
I remember probably some of the nostalgia I have towards Chambers of Zarek is that when it came back out in 2017, it was by far the most difficult content in the game. Nothing had come close. I think it was like Zora and God Wars beforehand, and then actually like completing it in teams was just so satisfying because it was that much more difficult, and there was no clear cut guide on how to do it. So I definitely would like to tell people to experience that when new things come out, to try it for the first time, to try and solve it. And yeah, it might be the most fun you'd have in the game, honestly, compared to all the guides that are out now, and everything's basically
For
solved.
sure.
So yeah.
I mean, that's sort of so, like, going back to my game dev sort of perspective, I've gotten in the habit of, when I play games these days, to really try to understand, because if you're a game developer, your goal is to provide the player with an experience, right?
Mhm.
Like if you were a film director, you're like, I want someone to watch this film and experience something, right?
Yeah.
If it's an emotion or whatever. And with a film, you're pretty confident that the person going into it will uh, see the things that you put on screen and understand them in the order in which you show them, right? Like,
Yeah.
if we show event X and then event Y, you will understand event Y with the perspective of event X, right? It's linear. Um, you can kind of mess this up with spoilers, I guess. You could argue that. But my point with that is that as a game developer, most of the time you're doing the same thing, right? You're like, oh, I want them to feel these things. I want them to experience these things in this order.
Mhm.
But a lot of the times, people can completely and are advised to ruin that, you know, process of experience by looking things up. You know, it's an issue of information because games, we've kind of created this culture around games that if you are going into it with without information, you're somehow doing it wrong, or you're doing it worse than other people, or you're going to fail, or you're not going to 100% it, or you're cheating yourself out of something by not knowing everything about it because it's a challenge.
Mhm.
But a lot of the time, the gathering of information is part of the intended experience. Does that
Yeah.
make sense?
No, for sure. Yeah.
Like, um, uh, I'm guessing not, but have you ever played the game Stardew Valley?
No, I don't play much besides RuneScape. Let's put that out there.
understandable. I think that most people who are listening to this are in the same way. Point is, it's just a game where you talk to people, one of the things is you talk to people and try to figure out what items they like, and you try to give them to them. And there is an intended progression within the game as you get further into the game where you learn what people like and what they don't like, and you're able to give them gifts better. You're better at it because you learned.
Yeah.
You can just look it up and instantly give everyone the gifts they like, but you are actually invalidating a large portion of the game, the progression, the gameplay, the intended experience that the developer meant for you to have by doing that. And I think that RuneScape is guilty of that at every corner of the game, in every possible way of the game. We are taking whatever was put there for us, whatever experience they intended for us to have, and just invalidating it, just saying, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to do something else.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that there's some validity to that approach, because a lot of RuneScape, a lot of the challenges that are put there in the earliest quests are unfair, right? They're not like meant to be something that you can, it's not like there's a trick to jumping across the agility things in the underground pass. It's not like if you do it enough times, you'll figure it out. No, it's just there to like fuck with you.
Yeah.
So I get why people have kind of gotten this attitude of like, I don't trust Jagex to give me a good experience.
Yeah.
I don't trust the game to have something fun for me there. But that's not always the case. And that the weirdness that they are presenting you with can be its own form of fun. Sort of like how if you watch Unguided, you'll watch somebody go through that. That's what I love. He's broadcasting the experience that someone can have when they play RuneScape in this way that nobody plays it, but everyone could play it. It's like the opposite of a restricted account. It's like a normal account. It's like
trying to be
playing
as
the game
as possible.
regular.
Yeah.
Exactly. So anyway, that was a ton of words to kind of express that I think that RuneScape has this game in it that no one has played in a long time except for this one guy, and he's showing us all that it's actually quite cool.
No, that was great. That sold me. I'm definitely gonna watch. Maybe I'll skip a couple episodes in, but definitely gonna watch that series now.
Yeah.
But
yeah, jump to like episode, I don't know, like 10 or something, and it'll be like awesome.
Yeah, there we go. I'll do that for sure. But yeah, that kind of gets me thinking about how people should be interacting with the game. I've taught a lot of people Chambers of Xeric, especially recently, and maybe telling them what to do instead of having them figure things out for themselves is maybe maybe it's ruining what could have been. Maybe they would have had a lot more fun going it solo, figuring it out themselves first. But
like you said, that experience that you had when you were playing the first time, learning it, if you insist that someone comes to Chambers and tries it with no knowledge, and they bring a group of friends and just try to figure it out, you may be able to simulate the fun that you had learning it the first time for them.
Mm-hmm.
It's possible. It's possible to do. You just have to be very dedicated to opting out of the information. And it's not easy to convince someone to do that because information is so readily available. But it's possible. You might be able to actually give someone that the joy that you felt when you were doing that. So that's sort of my perspective. It's something I've watched my girlfriend play a lot of games that I love myself and played myself, a lot of Zelda. And I've had to train myself to not give away what it is, because even when she's getting really annoyed, she's like, I hate this, please tell me what to do. And I'm going to be like, no, if you figure it out, you're going to be so much more satisfied and have so much more fun. And at the end of this, you're going to be like, wow, that was awesome. I'm so glad I did that. And that's been true every single time. And I think it's something that we, as RuneScape players, we don't have that person over our shoulder sort of like urging us to just try it. Just run in there, try it. If you lose some time, if you lose some resources, you can get it back. But what you can't get back is you can't unknow things. Once you've learned them, you can't unknow them. And so, you know, you can never try it again without that knowledge. You can always try it again. You can always gain the knowledge later if you really are having a terrible time. But yeah, I don't know. That's just something that I've really been thinking a lot about lately.
Yeah, no, that's definitely that's eye opening. Honestly, I think more people should honestly try and think that way. Yeah, I think a lot more people would have fun with this game if they played it without guides, and yeah, that gives a huge perspective. And yeah, anything I could do to get those feelings back. That was definitely the most fun I've had in the game, is trying new things without any knowledge of what's going on. That's the most fun I get out of this game. And I have a lot of fun playing it normally too, but yeah, those rare opportunities, need to take advantage of that 100%. I get that.
Yeah, and like, you know, the playing that way, it comes at a cost that I think as a community we kind of look down on. It's, you know, you might have less, you know, you might be wasting gold resources, you might have low levels, things might take longer. Those are all most likely going to happen if, you know, someone were to play the game this way.
Yeah.
But
yeah. I remember being an Ironman
what's better?
and yeah, and going into Inferno and just really hating using my supplies, because then if I used them all, I'd have to like go back and make more. And yeah, that does get frustrating. But yeah, it's about the journey and not the destination always. So yeah, it's a good thing to think about.
What's better, to have, you know, to have a experience that you treasure, or to have more gold? You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's people get better at the game when they learn stuff that way too. I feel when people are just told what to do, they might not gain the game knowledge to be able to take it on a second time without any of that information. So
Totally.
yeah, I get that.
One thing I
too.
find really fun about the Unguided series is he starts to kind of pick up on some of the quirks of RuneScape quests, and is able to figure things out that, like, I think when you're doing quests, you're just following quest guides, you're like, why am I like, many things seem incredibly unobvious, like, why would I do that? How would I have ever thought to have done that? But like you're saying, he's like gaining the skills to actually start to overcome those challenges that seem incredibly obtuse to the average player, someone who's just, you know, following guides.
Mm-hmm.
You're
you
like,
get
oh,
stuck on like a
I guess
quest part. You get stuck on a quest part. There's like a 50% chance you use an item on something, so you just try different items, or maybe you interact with different characters, so you go through all the dialogue, and then eventually you just get it. So it's not like impossible to figure these things out, but you don't know that until you try it.
right.
So
Well,
we're
I know we're
getting
basically
we're getting
yeah.
through the podcast pretty quick here, but that's a good thing, kind of, because we've been talking about things we're passionate about. So I like that. One thing I want to know is who are your favorite chunk content creators? Either like well-known ones, or maybe a couple lesser known ones that deserve some attention. Anyone you want to
Yeah.
shout out?
Um, definitely. Let's see. So I just from a perspective of sort of someone who's really adopted the idea of sharing information. Lunatar has the Relica chunk account.
Mhm.
Um, that he's done his fun Relica facts, which I think it's the most obvious sort of like borrowing of that idea, and I'm all for it. So very happy to see that. Um, recommend that series for sure.
Yeah, great
Uh,
guy.
I know you had Hannibal on last time. I love his series. I think
Mhm.
he's a good guy, and it's very very chill. Um,
Oh yeah, his videos are the
there,
most laid back, lo-fi music. Great to have in the background. I love the series.
yeah. Um, let's see. I mean, I can. There's I have so many friends in the content creation scene that I could like shout out a bunch of different people. I mean, uh, there is Sailing Chunk. He started in Port Sarim and is kind of like preparing for sailing if
Mhm.
and when that ever comes out. Sailing Chunk. Another one who has been in touch with me and was sort of asking if he could, borrow some of the stuff that I did. So I guess it's very uh self-congratulatory for me to be like, all these people are copying me and they're great. um, but I think it's just like I was saying, it's the perspective of like they have a perspective that I appreciate. It just
Mhm.
so happens to be my perspective. So
They're doing things
I
that
guess
you
that
like to do, so it's obvious
yeah,
that it's
yeah.
yeah, it works.
Um, there was another account that I enjoyed a lot that um is no longer going, unfortunately, as far as I know. What was his channel called? It was called Not Meta, and he had a Wizard's Tower chunk man who was like he could roll any chunk and he couldn't do anything. He could walk to the other chunk, but couldn't do anything in between. Which I thought was kind of a fun idea.
Oh, yeah.
So he like rolled like a Zaya chunk as his second chunk, and like he walked all the way over there, and then that's where his chunk was. So that was fun. Also, there's a couple of not chunk accounts that I've been really enjoying. One is this account called Equilibrium Man. Has that
Hmm.
popped up
No, I haven't heard that one.
in your recommended? Okay, Equilibrium Man is really a funny idea. It's that the guy, he has to keep all of his stats within one like number of the lowest. So like if he wants to go to, you know, level 2, or if he wants to go to like level 3 attack, well, all of his other stats need to be level 2 or
Hmm.
3 or 4. And basically he has to level up all of his skills equally, and if he messes up, he restarts the account. And it's almost like a roguelike of how far you can go without messing up. I also find the editing really enjoyable. It's just like really goofy and does a good job of like keeping you sort of entertained while going on this very repetitive and sort of very simple challenge.
Mhm.
Big fan of Equilibrium Man. And then
Sounds
also my
fun.
friend Skeldor, who has he's like one of those behind the scenes guys like we were talking about, Goody and Source.
Yeah.
Skeldor has made a bunch of plugins for different people. He made the Amazing Chess plugin. Have you used that?
No, I had like, I think I started doing that before that was out. I don't like a lot of stuff on my screen, so that's kind of why don't use
Same.
it. But yeah, I've heard about that plugin. A lot of people like that one for sure, who have the same sort of deal as me as using the side chest. So yeah, very good plugin.
Just a really helpful for AFKing that, since it is purely AFK. You literally can't do anything but AFK it.
Mhm.
He has a series where he it's very very unique concept. Well, he first of all he has a Barbarian Village chunk account that Chunk Valier that I think he will someday post another video of. But
Seen him
these
on
days he's
every
been
now and
doing
then.
a
He's in the
yeah
clan chat,
axe
so
an axe journey.
oh yeah, yeah, I've
You know
heard
about
that
his
one.
axe account?
Yeah.
he just released a very cool video that is he puts a lot of work into all of them, and he's using a very obscure glitch with Gorax. That
Yeah.
you know how they always roll the rare drop table.
Yeah. There's a secret drop table. Yeah.
Yeah, they have a secret other drop table. So,
Mhm.
that's another one I would shout out. So if people are looking for suggestions, just come into my Discord and look in the self promotion um thread channel, whatever, and it's full of great stuff.
Oh yeah. And if people want to see your content, you want to plug your socials, I can put them in the description as well. Just why don't you just tell people in case they want to just hear from you.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the main place you can find me is just YouTube at Josh Isn't. Is it at Josh Isn't Gaming? I don't even know. I think it's just at Josh Isn't.
At Josh isn't, yeah.
Um, and yeah, you can see my Chunk account there. You can go check out Sir Lumbington if you are looking for something else. Maybe you've seen the Chunk series. Lumbington has about 10, 12 episodes, something like that. And I will finish that one day, I promise. And also, if someone who has watched my videos, some people who watch my videos know that I make all the music in my videos. And I also have a playlist for all of the music. If you want to check that out, it's in the playlists. The videos you won't find on my channel because they are unlisted, but the playlist is publicly visible. So
Nice. Yeah, you make some awesome music, I gotta say. And what you did for Extreme Gnome too was really cool. I like his intro.
oh yeah, Extreme Gnome, definitely shout out to Extreme Gnome. Very interesting guy. You should definitely have him on here. Highly underrated channel. I don't really know why YouTube decided that he doesn't deserve the numbers that other people get, because his content is great. His grinds are easily on the same level as like Limpwort,
Mhm.
and the production quality is just as good. I don't know why I forgot to shout him out. He and I are buddies, and yeah, I made the intro music for his series that he's been using lately. That was a lot of fun. We made that together.
Yeah, he's one of the best memers we got in the Chunk community too, for sure.
Yes, he's fun. He was in my Castle Wars video, and I told everybody to bring the only gear I could use, and he did. And then he whipped out his fang at the end of the match.
Typical, yeah.
So he's a fun guy. You should definitely have him on here. He has a very interesting life. Also, I learned a little bit about.
Yeah,
what
he's
he does.
he's on the coast of France teaching surfing lessons, living in a tent right now.
Yes. Yeah.
So I think that's why we're not doing it until he's back to where he normally is recording. I don't think he has a great microphone at the moment, but we'll definitely get him on here.
Yeah.
100%.
His setup is. I know it's always changing because he moves around a lot.
Yeah, definitely
Yeah.
very interesting life for sure. But it's been a pleasure talking to you. It's been an hour and 20 minutes already. Crazy. But
Yeah.
there's definitely like no reason to not have people on twice eventually too. So I'm looking forward to maybe chatting to you again.
Yeah, I would love to. I feel like I don't really share. I don't really have a platform to share my like just sort of thoughts on the game, or kind of just like discuss it like we've been doing today. My videos are pretty narrative focused, so I don't really
Mhm.
have like a ramble uh platform. So this was a lot of fun. I really appreciate you having me on here and listening to my long explanations for everything.
No problem, man. No problem. I enjoyed it as well. So we'll call it there. I appreciate anybody watching the video. Leave a like, comment, consider subscribing, and check out the links in the description. Have a good one.
Peace.